This is K-12 Tech Talk. K-12 Tech Talk. The podcast by K-12 Techs for K-12 Techs. Real conversations, real arguments, and real banter on trending K-12 technology topics and issues.
Live from the somethingcool.com studios. This is the K-12 Tech Talk podcast, episode 141. I am Josh, with you weekly. With me is Mark.
Hello.
And Chris is here tonight. We're unsure if he has a stable internet connection or a working PC, but he's here for now.
Hello. I'm here, boys.
Hello.
I'm here.
Hello, Chris. So hopefully Mark hit record on the video, and this will be our first YouTube video that we upload after we kind of play with it and edit it a little bit. So it might be posted a little bit after the audio gets posted to major streaming services. But welcome. Follow our page if you're not following us on YouTube. If you already download the podcast or subscribe to the podcast, go hit like and subscribe. Smash the like and subscribe button over on YouTube at K-12 Tech Talk Podcast. We're over there now. We're since Google is killing off Google Podcast and making it all YouTube based, we're making that change, boys. So it has been a week. I think when I jumped on with Mark, I said it's been a week of me complaining at vendors about the same problem multiple times, looking at you, Google, and Infinite Campus. So yeah, it's been a tiring week, and it's Thursday. Tomorrow's
you look
Friday.
tired, buddy.
I am tired, man. I got a new toothbrush tonight, though. I went to Walmart, got a new toothbrush.
You know, that's a mean thing to say, Chris. I learned the hard way. You cannot tell somebody that they look tired because that's a really bad insult.
And my birthday's coming up, Chris. I'm feeling a year older. It's just rude, Chris.
Looking good, Josh.
Thanks, Mark.
Looking strong.
I need a haircut, though.
Looking young.
I'm just gonna admit I listened to the last episode. You guys talked bad about me. Eric from Oklahoma, wherever I could give a care less who he is, whatever. I know he went through a lot, but I'm sure he's gonna be fine. But you guys encouraged him, like maybe it was gonna be like a little quick interview if I end up bailing. I don't appreciate any of that. That's really what I wanted to say. That's why I'm talking about your hair, Josh.
I was not a part of that conversation. That was all Josh.
Yeah, so last week we did interview Eric from Oklahoma City Public Schools.
I know, I'm on your mind, I'm in your heart. I know. I'm not replaceable.
About their ransomware incident of, what was that, Mark, May of 2019, right?
Yes.
Where he didn't even show up to work that day when they were hit. So,
yeah, I feel like you guys should have grilled him a little bit harder on that too. He didn't come in because of a headache.
Chris, if you would have shown up, if you would have shown up, you could have asked those hard hitting questions. But that's not who Mark and I are.
Yeah, I know. Headaches and migraines, they're different. I know.
Yeah, I used to have migraines. Boy, they're horrible.
I get it, Eric. Whatever.
God. You know what won't give you a headache though? Fortinet networking gear. We'll just say networking gear. Their full stack of appliances, from firewalls to switches to EDR clients to authenticating clients to their VPNing to maybe a porta potty. Chris, who do listeners want to read? Who should listeners reach out to if they want to know more about Fortinet?
Chris Illingworth. But you can email him at fortinetpodcast@fortinet.com. And I was just talking to Chris, and one of the big quick takeaways that we had in this conversation was Fortinet, you think of them for firewall. We crack all kinds of Forti jokes, but they have several clients and customers that don't have firewall, that they got started with Fortinet products, with a Forti token, with other Forti items. So check out Fortinet in general with their whole list of all that they can offer. In particular with their firewall, but they do a whole lot more than that.
And they've been around for quite a while. So yeah, give Chris an email. Actually, I had somebody this week reach out to me and say, "Hey, we're talking to Chris, and we told him we heard about you on the podcast." So if you talk to Chris, let him know you heard about Fortinet from us. We would appreciate that. So Mark is our little let's see, how do we say this? Mark is
What is he?
He's our newsboy.
Mark's our little newsboy.
He scours the headlines for
little
K-12
newsboy Mark. Come on up here, buddy.
he needs intro music.
I'm ready.
He scours the headlines for K-12 technology headlines, and I think he has 2 headlines for us tonight. What do you got, Mark?
Tonight's theme is all about surveillance and privacy. So we got 2 headlines about this one. They are from the last few weeks, but New York State has banned facial recognition in schools. This is an interesting headline. So they've had a lot of discussions at the state level, and they have said they have banned facial recognition. However, they did leave the door open to what's kind of called fingerprint recognition, where basically you're using a facial recognition technology to like unlock a device. So they have opened that up, but they do not want facial recognition used for any sort of kind of like that the safety or surveillance cameras where that can, take your face and recognize you in another location. So that's been banned at the state level. Be interesting to see if that kind of takes off. And if there are schools using facial recognition, if that, suddenly leads to a stop or a change in course. How do you handle facial recognition? Has that conversation come up in your districts?
I can't say the conversation has come up, but I know that, we've been big into looking at different security camera systems and replacing some camera systems. I know that's one of the big features that a number of vendors are touting now. And you can, Verkada, Ava, Vigilon, all the big players out there have that, it seems like, built into a number of product lines now. Yep. So it'll be interesting to see how those players react to this or handle this for the state of New York. And will that start a bigger trend across the nation for facial rec? I will say we've demoed, I think we demoed all 3 of those that I've mentioned, and some other ones. And they work, but I don't know. They're not quite there yet to be one of those, like, you see CSI and show me his face, follow this guy, and it pulls up 1,000 different cameras. They're not there yet, but the baseline of facial rec, it's there. I just don't know how good it really is. Yeah, but it'll be interesting to see what happens with this.
Chris,
do you think, quick take on the camera system stuff, do you think you could still recognize faces but just not tie them to names, like not tie them to students? Like you could look for the face of little Johnny and all the places he was at for the school day, but not put little Johnny's name in a database and be clear, you know what I mean? That you could still use that technology but not tie it to student data per se?
The way I would read it, if they're banning facial recognition, they're banning the function of finding that face in a sea of faces, is the way that I would perceive that or interpret that. Mark, as our resident lawyer, what do you think?
Well, my city actually also has a ban on facial recognition. And so we had to, when we recently did a review or an acquisition of new cameras, that had to be built into our RFP. So when it came to demos of that section, we had to really ask them, when your product is pulling up clips based on recognition, what is it doing? What we found was most of the camera providers, theirs was like a clothing recognition. And so the scenario is I've found clip of a person and he's wearing a red shirt and blue jeans. You find me other clips that match that, and it's not perfect because you're going to pull up a lot of people that are wearing the same thing, but it wasn't recognizing the face. So that's something that, and I think the majority of scenarios that you're going to go through, you're looking for a character of a person you don't know based on their clothing recognition, which is very, very different than facial recognition.
Sure.
Face is saying, like, to your point, Chris, this is what Chris's face looks like. Find me, other instances, as opposed to I'm looking for somebody with a red shirt and blue jeans. Could be, apples to apples, but we were very particular not to have any sort of facial recognition in our camera system.
Well, and I to that point, Mark, I think those are two very, very different recognition types. Like when you say facial, or when I think facial recognition, I'm thinking of that measurement process that they go through. You know, the distance between the eyes to the nose to the facial feature type stuff, and then recording those attributes so that it could be searched again in the future. Like you said, clothing is completely different than recording the whatever those metrics are, those measurements are that it takes of a face.
Yeah.
Because God forbid that system becomes breached and that recognition fingerprint, for lack of a better term, gets taken.
Right.
Is this talking too about like your like Windows Hello stuff? Like we can't do logins with
Well, so
facial recognition technology, I guess. Yeah.
So yes and no, right? So facial recognition, you could fall into that category, but New York State left the door open for that because they did say that, there are certain security applications that would be helpful using facial recognition, passkeys, those kinds of things, using a face or a fingerprint. And those are technically different in how they operate, right? When you are storing a passkey using facial recognition, it is actually local on the device, or should be local on the device. So it's different in its purpose, and it's different in its technology. So I think the words of how, if you're going to ban facial recognition, what you're saying or of what that means is very important. So you don't accidentally ban security components.
So, do you guys on your phones, do you do passcodes? Do you do like your fingerprint? Do you do your face? What do you do?
Yes.
Yes.
You do all of them?
Yeah, why not?
This is going to sound like I got something to hide. I guess I'm like against government, okay?
Yeah.
Well, you did want to move to New Hampshire, so
yeah.
It's true.
What they
free
say?
stater.
Yeah.
Live free or die.
Anyway, live free or die. The government can make me put my finger on my phone to unlock it. The government can make me make my face, like they can force you to like do that, but they can't make you tell your passcode. Because that would be Fifth Amendment stuff. Like I can't incriminate myself. You know
I don't know that they can make you put your finger on there.
Did you learn this on Facebook, Chris?
What? It's not true?
I'm not 100% sure those statements are accurate.
I think that stands up.
Okay. I think we should move on to the next news story, Mark.
The next article.
I'm hiding anything.
The next article is the ACLU and probably Chris too.
And probably Chris too.
Are sounding the alarm on school surveillance technology. So this kind of extends that conversation a little bit to talk about school surveillance technology that probably all of us have, whether or not you're using it or not as surveillance, but the ability of a school to kind of either view students' emails and alert if certain keywords come up. Viewing the screens has definitely been something that the ACLU has talked about. So this was, there was some unsettling statistics they talked about. 32% said that of students said that they feel that they're always being watched no matter what they do. And then 24% of students said that they feel it makes them feel limited in in their access to online resources. So these surveillance technologies are not just monitoring you, but almost stopping you or limiting you from where you need to go for personal or for education purposes. So they did recognize, though, that there are applications where these are necessary, and so they didn't say we're trying to stop all the surveillance technology, but they did leave with 4 pieces of advice when you're looking to adopt kind of surveillance technology. And that surveillance, like I said, it has a very broad category of email monitoring, screen browsing, those kinds of things. But they did say, first, define your problem. Make sure that when you're applying these technologies, that you know what the problem is, and the technology is going towards solving that problem, and not just saying, I'm going to monitor screens just because I might need to. Then identify the pros and cons of that technology. Once you have the problem defined, seek input from your school community. And I would define that to say teachers, students, and parents. And then develop an analysis of the benefits versus the costs and potential harms. So I think what the ACLU is saying, these are concerning. These are having an impact on students. And so, we need to be a little bit more thoughtful before we start applying surveillance technology, either overtly or covertly. So,
So just a couple thoughts or statements about this. Uh, Articles like this, I think, need to be a discussion, kind of addressing concerns and addressing what we have to do as schools. Number one, I'm sure everyone listening to this knows, there are certain requirements that we have to comply with, to be E-rate eligible, yada yada yada, that kind of thing. So to me, that's
And we
box
take the
number
yada
one
yada
is-
yada very seriously.
Yes, that's box number one that we have to do. And I feel like in a number of these articles that are kind of bashing this kind of surveillance state or this nanny state, fail to mention that in almost every article. The other thing, and this goes back on schools, if you are using a screen monitoring utility for classroom management, whatever, to make sure kids aren't screwing around on games when they should be working on a Google Doc, whatever, I think those tools need to have very strict guardrails. And the first example that comes to mind is that tool is only available to a faculty member that has that kid in class, and that tool is only available during school hours. So once the school day ends, that final bell, that tool isn't available for anybody, let alone a teacher that doesn't have that kid in class. And I think those are reasonable. Those are reasonable kind of guardrails to establish, with anybody, honestly. And I think even people that are against these type of nanny tools could agree to those. I don't know. That's just kind of the way I look at this.
we've had a lot of conversations about email monitoring tools and the pros and cons. And it has not been an easy conversation to have. But we've really been very thoughtful about those kinds of tools before rolling anything out. And at this point, we're not ready to as a community. We do have screen monitoring tools that our teachers can use to allow them to see students' Chromebooks. But we were very, very explicit at the beginning that every teacher has to take a very short self-paced course on how to use it. And part of the course is to read the ACLU's concerns about these types of tools. And we do the same thing as you mentioned. They cannot use them outside of school hours. You cannot use them off the network. And I will say that was a big contention point during COVID when teachers wanted to be able to see that. We said this is a bridge too far. And we've put a stop when what we described to be a teacher enhancing tool when it then becomes used as a surveillance tool. So a teacher needs to be able to use this in their classroom when they can't physically see all the screens because the screens are up and you can't see them from where you are, but they're not allowed to use them from one room to the next. That's where, we've said that bridges into a surveillance tool and out of a classroom management tool.
I think before Chris says whatever he says, I think this deserves a Pate-ism, a Pate-ism in honor of Pate. The best app for surveillance is the good old 2 feet, 2 eyes, walk your ass around the room app. So hat tip to Pate for that. Now, Chris, what were you going to say?
I always without the cursing, I used to say that as well. And I think that's so funny because it's the tech guy sitting in the seat. Like, we're the ones behind like, I'm sitting in my chair and I'm like, you need to walk around your room more. No, Pate was right. Pate's right.
Yeah.
Well, those are the listener emails. Or sorry, not the listener. That was the news for the week.
Wrong segment, Mark.
Sorry.
Way to screw up the landing, news boy.
Go out there and sell us some newspapers, Mark. Jeez.
I'm on it.
All right. Well, Mark goes out
and throw him in the wrong yard, but
yeah, he probably would. He's got his little newsboy, that Boston Scally cap on, his little newsboy hat. And there he goes. He's running. Look, he's going off onto the street. So while Mark runs off and sells newspapers, Chris, why don't you tell us about Extreme Networks real quick?
Extreme Networks, a proud sponsor of the K-12 Tech Talk podcast. You can email our friend Dominic, D. Mayer, Mayer, at extremenetworks.com. He can hook you up with all of your networking needs. I've talked about this just a little bit. I'll continue to talk about just a little bit. I'm doing their Cloud IQ stuff now, as well as Site Engine. I'm getting weekly backups of all my switch configs. Then Cloud IQ is pretty cool. You can make templates, not having to jump into Putty and do command line stuff as much anymore. I can make a template in the GUI, and it's not a clunky GUI anymore. It's finally starting to feel like a 2023 kind of switch world. Extreme Networks.
How do you reach Dominic? D-Mayer at
extremenetworks.com.
You know, you mentioned Putty. I really like Putty, and especially the silly version of it. Get it?
Yeah.
So let's move. You guys are ruthless. Look, Mark's back. Let's get into some of the stuff that we've been seeing on K12 Tech Pro. Chris, who is this K12 Tech Pro website?
It's K12. Look at the shirt.
Oh yeah.
K12techpro.com. I lightly posted about K12 Tech Pro on K12 sysadmin subreddit today.
Oh, did you?
I fully respect our 42,000 users on that subreddit. So like lightly, we're not a vendor, we're not a sponsor, we're helping the vet and do the moderation. So just trying to get information out there about what K12 Tech Pro is, because it's a vetted private community. We vet you to make sure that you're actively employed in the K12 Tech department, and you can have those same conversations you're having on the K12 sysadmin subreddit. Only you can get a little bit deeper, because you can talk about things that we don't have middle schoolers trolling on. We don't have vendors paying attention to what you're posting there, because they're not allowed in there. So you can join that. It is a subscription-based platform, but we have sponsors that pick up the full tab. And that's the whole point, is that we're not going to run out of sponsors. So if you don't want to pay, you don't have PD money to pay, just click sponsorship. We're happy to do that. And then you come hang out with us. We do weekly video calls as well to check in. But good topics on there. We're going to unpack one of those now, I think.
Yeah, so I'm kind of surprised you just got the K12 Tech Pro t-shirt. My K12 Tech Pro Wave Runner showed up last week.
Nice.
So tell us about
Prove it on the video.
I can't. It's dark outside. Tell us what Jason, listener or member Jason, listener Jason, or Jay, whatever he goes by, posted about Google.
You really set me up for that. It's
Jason? Not like we didn't talk about this before the show.
Which Google? Don't we have two Google things going on? No, we just have the one, right?
No, we have one Google thing and one other thing.
You talk about the grade export? Oh, I got you.
Yes.
Yeah, we got someone posting. Well, this is Jay. Giving a heads up to anyone who hasn't seen this. Looks like Google is moving their grade export feature to be part of the paid tier starting July 1st, 2024. And we can put a link to this in the podcast description. Mark was under the impression it was already underpaid, but there's definitely a date listed here. So something has changed.
Yep. So if you're on the free tier, that is moving to the paid tier.
Which, and I think we kind of talked about this already too, that this leads into the bigger discussion with Google about putting things like that behind the paywall. They've gotten really good. They got everybody sucked in and they got their hooks in them, this free ecosystem, and now they're going to start putting more features behind the paywall and moving some features that were free behind the paywall. And we've mentioned it several times before that several features like the investigation tool, conditional access. If Google's going to say they're secure by design,
we're not happy about it.
Yeah. Hey Google, that if they're
that should be a new bit, Josh.
Yeah, I think it should. We got to do it every week.
This is the Hey Google bit.
Yeah, the Hey Google. Hey Google, move conditional access and investigation tool out from the paywall.
Yeah, if you sign a thing that says you're going to be secure by default and you're like pledging for it, then prove it.
Secure by design, Chris. Get it right.
What I say?
Secure by default. Yeah.
That's the same thing. That's the same thing.
So another thing with Google,
I'm from the show me state, Google.
Oh my
show me.
Goodness. Awfully aggressive. It's almost like you block cell phone signal or something.
This camera's giving me like a new, like I feel like I'm a new version of myself.
Why?
If you're gonna make it secure, Google, prove it.
Okay. If you haven't been hit with the third-party app thing, this week was the week that Google started enforcing that on the 23rd. So I'm sure if you didn't have all your ducks in a row, that you were getting phone calls about apps that were no longer working with student logins. That third-party app thing, really, I guess we were in good shape because we didn't get any calls this week about it. I was kind of surprised.
Well, we really appreciated. I want to take a second.
Oh, thanks,
we really
Chris.
Appreciated all the vendors of the third parties.
Yeah,
not you, but just as all you vendors listening, we love that you told our teachers to make sure that they will protect departments. Like that was a great move. That was a great move for you to do that. Just a couple of days before the deadline too. I just thought that was
my favorite was the vendor who sent an email with the subject line in all caps to the teachers to tell us to unblock their app before Monday. Even though we had already done all this.
Yeah, right.
It was already done and already in place.
Yep.
The all caps mass email, really just, that sweetened my day.
Well, Mark, you only have what, 34,000 teachers or something. So that was probably 36,000 emails.
Yeah, it was a let's just say it hit that threshold where the email sender became marked as spam.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And I am not lifting that log.
That's great. Oh, yeah. That's great.
So,
let's see. Admin. So kind of non sequitur here, but if you are an E-rate person, admin window did open this week. So if you need to go in and adjust your enrollment numbers and your free introduced lunch count numbers, you can do that now. That window will remain open until closer to the time of the 471 deadline. So get your enrollment and FRL numbers updated. Chris, what else?
I appreciate that.
Yeah, we got an email from our state coordinator today the other day about it. Chris, what other content are you bringing us tonight?
I have something else.
Do we want to talk about the listener post about the cell phone thing? We won't.
Yeah, I got you. All right, we got. Sure, you want me to take it?
It's in chat.
That's what I was pointing to. It's in the chat.
Yeah. Well, you were pointing at my head the way I look at whatever. Sorry. Chris, read chat.
I feel like you guys just like lead me along.
We're good coworkers.
Okay, I found it in the chat. So this was on K-12 Tech Pro as well.
We're not going to say who it was from.
A student. Who it was from. Right. We're not. If you want to know who it's from, jump on K-12 Tech Pro. A student stole iPhone from desk.
Teacher's desk, right?
Yes. Remove the SIM card. Teacher must have left it in a stairwell or something. Use the SIM card to gain access to phone number. Use the phone number to hack into 2 personal email accounts and change passwords. That's heavy. And then it gets heavier. From there, took over the Venmo account, had access to credit card, made 3 requests for money from different people. Then the teacher ends up regaining control of the phone number and the SIM card. All that's been disabled. Did end up regaining access to the email accounts and the Venmo account. But you can see all the attempts that were made. I mean, a student got some great control. So it was posted to K-12 Tech Pro to tell that crazy story, but to also hopefully, and this was the prompt that the person gave us, this is some great conversation about protecting your data, being able to look at logs, actually obtaining logs because the tech department got to help track some of this down, and they could verify what the kid was and was not doing on the district level with that information. Isn't that crazy?
So, yeah. One, does this rise to the level of classifying this as identity theft?
Yes.
You think so, Mark?
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
And one of the comments that really struck home with me out on K-12 Tech Pro about this was we constantly have fights with teachers about locking their workstations and have that discussion. We can't get the seriousness of that situation through to them.
Mm-hmm.
And they leave their phone on their desk and it gets stolen by a kid, and then they lose access to personal email accounts, their Venmo account, God knows what else. So how do you even begin to have these conversations and kind of hammer this home, make it real even more? I don't know.
I think that story is obviously an extreme story for a student to do that, but it's still a lesson for anybody that SIM card swapping is a thing,
Right.
And it can be done. So I think it's definitely a very valuable lesson. Whether or not it's going to be very common for a student to do that is extreme. However, leaving your phone out for a student to take it can easily lead to those kinds of things. All it takes is a student to pick up your phone, go to Venmo, and boom. So I mean, I think part of it is culture, is building that culture. Yeah. So when you walk into a room and it's unlocked, it's not just you saying that there are other people that can say that. But man, that is the most extreme student issue I've ever seen.
Well, I mean, kind of,
it's this bout like
I was just going to say, walk through a random building in your district, and like you said, Mark, room unlocked, or teacher steps out for a quick second. Where's her phone? Where that's making an assumption. Where is their phone? Let alone is the desktop locked? But how quickly let's say the teacher steps out, the class is still in the room, their cell phone is on the desk. That kind of nefarious student sees this opportunity, swipes the phone. How long would it take a typical teacher to realize that their phone has gone missing? And is that time that has elapsed long enough for a smart kid to take the SIM card out and dump the phone in the stairwell and start this whole process of trying to log into a personal Gmail account, getting a text code because the teacher probably has text MFA enabled, getting that text code and gaining like we're a smart kid, a smart evil genius, less than, what do you think, 10 minutes on the outside?
I mean, if you know what you're doing in a phone, if you know where you're going,
right,
it's seconds. And so I think that's the hard part is you want schools to feel like a safe haven, a safe place. But you do need to take just basic precautions. And I think those precautions extend not just to school, but anywhere you are. Just, don't leave your cell phone down for a second. Don't,
or off
just
your
like
body.
we tell people when you're at a bar, don't leave your drink, out of sight for out a second. And so it just takes a second. And it's not an easy one.
Okay, this is probably going to date me as far as how old I am, but I think having a teacher having their cell phone out during a class period like that and having it available kind of leads to a little bit of professionalism too. Like, should you really, I understand having your cell phone on you. I get that. It's just the way things are. Mine's always in my pocket. I get it. But having it out and accessible like that during a class period, I mean, I don't know. We're going to move on from that rant. Don't send me your letters. I get enough.
To me too. Years ago, like my cybersecurity awareness month was full on focused about, lock your computer, lock your door, all that fundamental basic, the attacker is going to be a kid kind of thing. And then cybersecurity things happened, and bad guys arose all over the world, and now we're being attacked externally. And that's a lot of the focus of cybersecurity awareness programs now, is the phishing stuff and all that kind of thing. So I think as a tech department too, you could check yourself on this. Did we miss some of the fundamentals? Are we reminding the teacher that they should not have the phone out? Are we reminding the teacher of the risks that can come with students or, employees doing the bad thing? If we put so much focus in the bucket of the bad guy's going to come and get us through the internet, maybe too.
I think some of that goes back to that ongoing cyber training that we're all probably supposed to be doing, like some of those videos and stuff. I can't say that I've really seen a cyber video, like one of those training videos that covers what's it called? It's not desk hygiene, but more or less having a clear desk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the converse side of that discussion too, though, to play the other side of the fence, if an expectation has been placed on the teachers for like an emergency reunification app to be placed on their phone in the incident that you would have a fire drill or, God forbid, a mass shooter event, and you're evacuating the building and you have a roster on your phone, there is an expectation then at that time for the teacher to have a phone on them at all times. So
that's in your face, Josh. That teacher was just thinking about school safety,
right,
and student reunification. That's why the phone's sitting on the desk.
And I was just going to say that it becomes a very weird line to walk.
Well, I think that phone was actually there because that school district just rolled out two-step verification and made all the teachers use their personal phones for it. So,
Mark,
there you go.
I gotta do two-step all the
time.
There
you go, Mark. Maybe that's why we're gonna have to go to that person, and we're gonna get on K-12 Tech Pro and make some comments here. If you wouldn't require MFA, this wouldn't have happened.
I looked in the mirror and I realized the villain was me.
I think it's all really good conversation. And that this cell phone story is wild. I was reading it today with the guys in my office. I'm like, holy cow. Like, so then you wonder what's
because that percentage of chance.
Yeah.
It's the bad kid.
There's probably one or two kids in a student population that would be able to do that or willing to do that or know how. Yeah, just totally wild. And then, of course, you wonder what's the outcome there. Did the authorities get involved? It's very, very interesting story for me. Let's see. That's all the notes I have, gentlemen. Chris, do you have any hot burning topics that you would like to talk about?
I do not.
Well, that's unfortunate. Mark, do you have anything?
No, that was it. You guys took all my sunshine.
David from NTP did email me and tell me that he does have something that he wanted us to talk about or wanted me to talk about. So you're not done yet. NTP, if you are a SentinelOne customer and renewal is coming up, or you just want it, maybe you're not a SentinelOne customer. Chris, I know you're not a SentinelOne customer. If you're looking at just making sure that whatever EDR vendor you have is giving you the best price they can, call David or email David, DREN, WREN, at ntp-inc.com. David and his crew over there can give you a managed EDR for, I can almost guarantee, cheaper than what you're paying for your current base level non-managed EDR. So give David an email and see what he can do for you. And we'll just go from there. Any closing thoughts, guys?
And that's the Josh guarantee.
No, we're not guaranteeing anything. No, we're not guaranteeing anything, Chris. That's how lawsuits happen. Nope, no guarantees. I said almost guarantee. Rewind it and listen. What else is going on, guys? Anything?
Okay. I don't want to talk about anything else.
Follow us on Twitter, K12 Tech Talk Pod. Shoot us an email, k12techtalk@gmail.com. Like I said earlier, we are on YouTube now. Hopefully this video gets uploaded. We'll massage it and add some audio to it, and Mark might let me edit it. We'll see if he gets all fancy with editing with it or not. But yeah, find our YouTube channel and subscribe. Share us with your friends. We keep growing. We're almost to the point where we are going to hit the point where we have doubled downloads from last year. We are almost there. So if you share us a couple more times with your meeting groups or other districts or your state distribution lists, we love getting emailed out to state distribution lists. It helps. So yeah, share us with your friends. And I guess Chris's dog is hungry, and we will see you next week. Right, Chris?
We are K-12 Tech Talk, and so are you.
The views and opinions expressed on the K-12 Tech Talk podcast are the personal opinions of Josh, Chris, and Mark, and do not represent the views or opinions of our sponsors or other organizations that we're affiliated with. The material and information presented here is for general information and entertainment purposes only. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.